Hello everyone, I'm Jing Sui from Chinese Academy of Sciences. It's my great pleasure to introduce my recent work on the multimodal neuromarkers via cognition-guided fusion in schizophrenia. So we know that cognitive dysfunction has been recognized a primary and enduring core deficit in multiple mental disorders, including schizophrenia, and mapping the cognitive capability onto brain imaging has the potential to reveal missing links among brain function, structure, and behavior, and also it provides clues for quantifying the individual cognitive abilities. There is a favorite review on the neuron that is written by the Dr. Gabriela in Harvard University. So in this review, it defines that a neuromarker is a brain measure that is associated with cognitive outcome and also can be utilized to quantify the individual cognitive performance. And also there's a well-known triple network theory that is raised by the Dr. Manon, in which it means that the silence network, a central executive network, and formal network, these three networks play a key role in the human cognitive ability. So the question is, could we have some imaging biomarkers that quantify and predict the cognitive composite ability? And we know that there are many brilliant works that recently, for example, from Rosenberg, it's like using function connectivity to predict the sustained attention, and also from Finn, which is used to predict fluid intelligence, and also from Drysdale, it's using FC to predict the subtypes of major depression. Well, many of these current studies motivate us that not only to study the only single cognitive domains, but also we want to try to find common imaging biomarkers that can not only represent the comprehensive cognitive ability, but also could predict other cognitive domains. And we know that actually for the human cognitive ability, there are several domains like attention, working memory, verbal learning, or social cognition. There are many studies currently just mostly focus on one single domain or using one single modalities, and all otherwise they could perform those comparisons after doing those separate unimodal analysis. Well, in that cases, the multi-domain cross-information and also the cross-information between those multimodal information was not fully leveraged to improve our knowledge about the cognition. And also considering that mental disorders are complex and the multimodal information is complementary. Therefore, using the multimodal fusion could help us to explain those missing links between those function, structure, behavior information. So in this work, we have mainly trying to identify those multimodal neuromarkers for quantifying and predicting cognitive performance for individuals. And we're trying to answer four aims. So the first is, which combination of brain networks could represent those comprehensive cognitive ability, which is especially impaired in schizophrenia? And the second is, could we replicate the above findings in the new data set? And the third is, we want to find if that identified brain networks could also impact several other cognitive domains. And finally, whether the identified imaging signatures could be used to predict cognitive performance for new and thin individuals. And to realize that purposes, where we just developed fusion with reference model, which is based on the supervised learning. So the basic idea of this model is that besides we just using the multimodal imaging, we could use those cognitive performance as a prior information, and we integrate it into those joint source separation. And here, this method is basically based on the multi-set canonical correlation analysis with reference plus a joint independent component analysis. So in this model, we are not only maximize and trying to get those covariant patterns between brain imaging, but also we maximize, we're trying to get those patterns that are also associated with the clinical measures of interest. And this method has been published in the IEEE TMI. So as to our research problem, here we just first find two cohorts. One is from FBRN, about 300 subjects, and second is a UNAM cohort, which containing about 90 subjects. And so in each of the cohort, we just perform the fusion with reference model independently. And we find that actually in both data sets, we got those covariant brain patterns that are not only showing this schizophrenic impairment, but also show high correlation with cognitive comprehensive scores. And when we compare their spatial maps, we could find that the brain patterns associated with those cognitive composites was highly consistent between these two cohorts. And then we next trying to find whether these patterns could also impact other cognitive domains. And when we searching all those 6 and 7 domains, we find that attention, working memory, and verbal learning are the top 3 domains that are most correlated with schizophrenia. And also, we just use those 3 top domains and the composite using those as a reference to perform those fusion with reference again, and then you could identify the brain patterns associated with each domain scores. And when we compare those domain scores, you could find that the spatial maps, like the gray matter and the FA, they have shown the high spatial consistency across different cognitive domains, while the FALF is showing more sensitivity in the cognitive domain difference. And also, when we compare these 4 maps, we find that this is the FALF map representing each of the domain scores. And you could find that in most these high executive functions, prefrontal cortex and the default mode network were mostly involved. And then after comparing and summarizing all these multimodal imaging features, we just selected 4 brain imagings. That is the silence network in the gray matter volume, prefrontal cortex in FALF, posterior default mode network in the FALF, and also the corpus callosum in the FA. Based on these 4 brain regions, we could use it as regressor to build a linear regression model to predict those cognitive composite scores. And based using those FBRN data sets as a discovery, we just applied the same prediction model and trying to predict in the UNAM cohort and the COBRA cohort. And the results showing that the identified prediction model can be generalized to predict the in the new individuals successfully. And also, we find that because the previous model, we just used cognitive composite. And when we're using these 4 biomarkers, we find that based on these 4 imaging signatures, we could also build other cognitive domain scores. And using those domain score models that generalized from FBRN data set, we could also successfully predict in the both UNAM and COBRA. And also, this is a beta weight of all those the different beta weights of each of those regressors across in those domains. You could see that here the structural component actually have a higher computation power, while the functional components, they have shown more variabilities across different domains. So therefore, based on those data mining and replication and validation, we successfully identified 4 MRI markers that can be replicated in 3 cohorts and generalized to predict multiple cognitive domains in the new individuals. Well, last but not least, the summary is that when we're trying to using a supervised multimodal fusion, because it's based on a goal-directed manner, so we could identify more accurate imaging signatures that are associated with your cognitive cohorts. And also the identified neuromarkers, they could not only predict the cognitive concept, but also can be generalized to multiple cognitive domain scores and predict new individuals. And also, this work actually defines modality-specific brain signatures that can be broadly applicable as neuromarkers of cognitive impairments. Also, based on this model, we could not only try those cognitive symptoms, we could also use other behavior measures or epigenetic factors that you are interested. Because similarly, we have recently used using the microRNA as a reference, and you could also identify those covariant brain patterns and also the impaired attention and executive function in the major depression. And in the future directions, I think the multimodal fusion is very promising, but is still underutilized. So this method could be help you to not only better understand those brain mechanisms regarding your clinical matters in interest, but also help for those individualized prediction. And also, this model has been integrated in the Fusion ICA toolbox, which you can download it and test by yourself. And finally, I'd like to thanks to my students and my mentors and collaborators. And thank you all for still sitting here and listen to the last talk. Okay, thank you.